Welcome to segment 2 of session 1, Casting a Vision. Let's look at what is a scholarly journal. Now, I'm sure you could probably already define this, but we want to just make sure that we're all on the same page with our understanding of scholarly journals. So why do we have scholarly journals? Take a minute and think about it. What's the point? What point do they serve? Why not just have journals, or why not just have scholars? Why not just have newspapers or television programs and movies? Why do we need scholarly journals? Think about that for a second. Okay, time's up. Scholarly journals are usually peer-reviewed or refereed. That means that quality control is maintained through editors and other experts. These experts oftentimes will form the editorial board. These are the folks who will peer review articles that are submitted for publication. They go through them, they review them, they critique them, and their primary focus is on primary or original research. They're really looking for new, novel things that are being done. Here's a quote from Ahmed Jamal. "I would like to be a scholar in whatever I do. A scholar is never finished. He is always seeking, and I am always seeking." I like this quote. It's true, a scholar is never finished. One question always leads to the next question. We're always seeking. And in your publications and in your writing, and as you go through this process, I hope that you're always seeking. I hope that you're constantly looking for what's next and constantly being inspired by what's next. So let's look at some considerations when thinking about a journal. These are just 4. There could be many, many more, right? You want to look at the scope of the journal. What exactly are they looking at? Is it a large scope? Something like the journal Nature, which covers a very broad range of topics and a very broad range of disciplines. Are you looking at something very niche-oriented, such as archaeology of South Africa, right? So that's very specific in its scope. They're not just going to publish all kinds of research. They're going to publish very specific things. So what's the scope of the journal you're looking at? Secondly, let's look at online. Is it an online journal? Is it only online, or is it also online? That's a consideration. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Open access. Is it an open access journal? There are positives and negatives to working with an open access journal, and you should be aware of those before you submit your article for review. And then lastly, prestige. This is what a lot of folks are really excited by. They want to know more about prestige, and they want to get into a prestigious journal. So if we go back and look at the goal statement, they may want 6 publications in 2 years, but they want 3 of them in a prestigious journal. So how do we measure prestige? There's 4 main ways that we look at prestige. One is the impact factor. Now, the impact factor is a measurement of how frequently the average article in that journal is cited in a given period of time, usually a year. And these kind of results are updated annually. So you would want to publish in a journal, if you're looking for prestige, a journal that has a lot of citations from the articles, because that would mean that you're likely in great company, that you're being cited a lot. So impact factor is huge, but it's not the only one. There's also other citation measures. You can do even on Google Scholar and see how many times an article has been cited, and then kind of do the backtrack and look and see what journals it came from. You can also look at circulation. How many subscribers are there to the journal that you're looking at? That's a good indication of how prestigious it is. And then lastly, the rejection rate. What percentage of the articles that are submitted are actually rejected by the journal? That could be a great indicator. The more that are rejected, the more likely it is to be prestigious. Okay? Let's look at some online journal issues to consider. Online journals have a lot of benefits, right? So you can do an online submission. So there's no postage, there's no photocopying of your article and sending it out in all these different numbers of copies, 20 copies a certain way. You submit it through an online portal or via email, and it's quite simple and easy and cost effective. It's also efficient. There's not a delay in terms of the timeline of getting correspondence to and from the editors and the review committee. It's rather fast, so there's some increased efficiency there. It's also a decreased time to publication. So by doing this electronic review, they can actually get the work done faster, and they can expedite the time it takes to, they can expedite getting it published, essentially, and decrease the time that it takes from submission to publication. With open access journals, it's a little bit different. There are some other considerations you want to think about. They have all the benefits of an online journal because they're digital, and there's a negative there, right? Authors bear the costs. So in other types of scholarly journals, the author doesn't necessarily bear the cost. They have a subscription. Libraries are paying to subscribe to the journals. Other folks are paying to subscribe. But in open access journals where there's no subscription, where there's no fees in that way, authors generally are going to bear the costs. And these will vary from, say, $500 all the way up into the thousands of dollars. They are online, just like an online journal. They do run a lot of clinical trial research, so if that is your area, or randomized controlled trials, they really do tend towards those. It is free, so for those of us who want to use open access journals, it's awesome. But for those of us that want to publish, there are some costs in there. And there are fewer restrictions just because they're open access. They are not limited in terms of how many pages they can publish per issue or how much they can put into it. So there are fewer restrictions in those journals. So hopefully this has been helpful for you, looking at what is a scholarly journal. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please give me an email or talk to your facilitator.